Being smart is completely overrated in the world of entrepreneurship if you want to be successful. If you want to make a lot of money, there is one single skill that reigns supreme. You master this one skill and then all the sub skills underneath of it, you are going to be successful. There is literally nothing that can stand in your way. That skill, well, before I tell you what that skill is, let me tell you a story about the guy in my life who most personifies this skill. His name is, let's protect the innocent. His name is Tim. Actually, I've talked about him before. I don't know why I need to protect him. Ryan is one of my business partners over at one of our businesses, right? He is the most true-bred entrepreneur that I've ever met. But he has a couple of interesting characteristics. Number one, Ryan is smart, but I would not say Ryan is like genius level smart. You would not sit down with him and leave that conversation thinking like, this guy is one of the smartest humans, most intelligent human beings I've ever met. You would walk away thinking he's very thoughtful, he's very considered, he has his opinions, but he's really good at playing dumb and asking great questions. You also wouldn't leave that conversation with him thinking this is a force of nature that just has a way of kicking down doors and like kicking a dent in the universe and just making things happen. But what you would walk away from that conversation is you would leave feeling like that man can probably do anything that he sets his mind to. Like, I wouldn't bet against him. Like, that is not a guy I would ever bet against because he has this one skill. And that skill is the skill of high agency. Now, high agency is this concept that I'm borrowing from my buddy, George Mack. Actually, I don't know George Mack. I call him my buddy. He's my pseudo internet buddy. He doesn't know we're friends. But he wrote a blog article earlier this year. You can go to highagency.com. You can read the blog article. It's like 30 minutes. Very thoughtful, very high level. The idea of high agency is if you were trapped in a third world prison, you were given one phone call. Who would you call? Which friend, which acquaintance, who would you call that you know would give you the highest probability of getting out of that prison? Not because of their connections or their resources, they're not the wealthiest, but because they have this ability to figure it out. A high agency person is able to just go out and figure it out. And there's probably somebody in your life like, man, that guy, that girl, she puts her head down and she gets it done. She's not the smartest. She's not the hardest working. There's just something about her that she'll run through a wall and she finds the answer. It's crazy, right? You know somebody like that and you probably want to be like that. So let me give you 5 sub skills under that of high agency that will serve you incredibly well. These are trends. These are consistent patterns that all high agency people have. Number 1 is that they have a bias towards action. Ryan's bias towards action is absurd, and it made me really uncomfortable in the early days of working with him because I'm a little bit slower and more considered when we would have an idea for a new case in point. Here's a perfect case in point. In 2016, 2017, we made a decision that we were going to grow through a combination of organic content and acquisitions, not paid acquisitions, as in we were going to merge and acquire other competitors in the space. So we set out our feelers, we put out our radar and said who in the industry right now would be ripe for an acquisition. Well, within a week, we had 2 companies that landed on our radar. By the end of that week, we had acquired both of them. But here's the crazy part. We signed the contract for both of those companies on a Thursday night, and one was in Virginia, the other was out of Detroit. The next day, I was on a flight to Detroit, and my partner was driving his truck with a trailer out to Virginia. The goal was I was going to go to Detroit. I was going to rent a van. I was going to drive over to their headquarters. I was going to take all their physical assets, all of their molds, all their holds, all of their electronic equipment. I was going to load up this van and then drive straight back to Minnesota. Ryan simultaneously would be doing the same thing in Virginia. So the next day, I literally land in Detroit. I'm there for less than like an hour. I drive outside the city to these guys' headquarters. We spend the next 3 hours loading up the van, and then I'm driving home. Ryan's drive was a little bit further than mine, so he was like lagging behind. But by Monday, we were all back at the headquarters. We had this company that I had acquired in Detroit. He had this company over here acquired from Virginia. We had it all laid out on the floor. These 2 companies, we had all of their assets, let's say. That is an example of a bias towards action. We didn't sit there and plan to ad nauseum of like how we're going to get these guys as equipment, how we're going to get out there. Maybe next week, maybe we, you and I will go out there together. It was like, how do we get this done as fast as humanly possible? Because we've spent the money to acquire them now. So the longer it takes for us to get their assets, the longer it's going to be for us to start recouping the investment that we made into the acquisition. So bias towards action. Number 2 is resourcefulness, not resources. This is a hallmark of super high agency people, is that they are incredibly resourceful, which means they have the ability just to look around themselves and say, okay, given what I have, these limited resources available to me, what could I do with them to come up with a novel, interesting solution? There's 2 sub-skills underneath of resourcefulness that will really serve you. One is curiosity. Really resourceful people tend to be curious. They look at the world through the eyes of like, what is that? Why is that? Like, who designed this table? You guys can't see it because it's out of the view right now. But right now there is this rotating platform that some flowers are sitting on inside of this kitchen, right? Now I know that this is called a lazy Susan. Why do I know that this is called a lazy Susan? Well, in going back to Escape, I learned all about lazy Susans for product photography, because when we went and acquired those companies, we got all of their holds, and now we needed a way to take standardized photos of them. So you put them on a lazy Susan, you spin it around. We got 360-degree photos of it. We loaded them up to the website so you could user could see all the different sides and angles of the hold. Curiosity. I didn't know how to do all of that stuff, but I learned, because it's one of the hallmarks of a resourceful person, is that they're always consuming things around them. They're filling up their data tank so that then they can deploy the second sub-skill of resourcefulness, which is creativity. See, I like to think of it like this. Curiosity is learning how to collect dots. Creativity is the ability to connect the dots that you've collected. They're both important, because if you don't have any dots to collect, if you're not a curious person, you're not out there collecting information, then it's really hard to be creative. Like, you just don't have very much to connect. But if you just are sitting around all the time collecting dots and not actually spending the time to meaningfully connect them, then you're not actually ever creating something in the world. And I think at the end of the day, resourcefulness is a byproduct of its utility in the world. If you don't actually do something that's useful in the world, then it doesn't matter how resourceful you were, right? Like, it has to have a real world consequence, which is where the creativity side comes into the equation. So let's recap real quick. High agency people, they have a bias towards action. They are resourceful, which the sub-skills of that is curiosity and creativity. The third skill of the high agency person is optimism. They just have this belief that things will work out, because at the end of the day, like, the default position for most humans is one of pessimism, to go through the world seeing all the reasons something can fail, why it won't work. And that is because you descended from a long line of pessimistic ancestors. Because it makes a lot of sense when you're out in the wilderness to be pessimistic about that sound that you hear off in the distance. It could be something coming to kill you. But these days, there's very few things that can kill you. So you, instead of assuming that something bad is on the horizon, you're better off assuming something positive is on the horizon. Even if you're wrong, in this world, you have asymmetric upside, which means you can only lose so much. Like, you're probably not going to face any existential threats on a day-to-day basis. The thing that is out there in the woods is probably not going to kill you. Now, it might hurt you, it might suck, it might annoy you, but it's not going to kill you. But the upside of being optimistic is that it could work. The thing could work. And in business especially, where if you make a bad bet, you lose some money. If you make a great bet, you make a ton of money. You make a ton of connections, a ton of relationships, right? Like, the asymmetric upside of being right far outweighs the potential downside. And so one of the things I like to remind myself is that pessimists get to be right, but optimists get to change the world. And that is, in my experience, a default mode of operation for most high agency people. The fourth skill is that of being relentless. High agency people do not just try once and then accept whatever comes as a consequence. They try once, they try again. They knock on the door a third time, still nobody answers, so they knock a fourth time, still nobody answers. So now they try the doorknob, doesn't work. Okay, so now they go to the window and they knock on a window, nobody answers. Now they try the window's locked. So then they go around to the back of the house, they knock on that, nobody comes. So they try the doorknob there. It doesn't work. Eventually, they start kicking down doors. They find a way into the freaking house. They don't take no for an answer. They keep going until they find the solution to the problem that they are trying to solve. And so there's two sub-skills here. Now, the first one is motivation. Second is discipline. Now, high agency people do not require motivation for the most part. They don't need to be like motivated with external drivers of like, here's some money, go get into that house. That's not the thing that's really motivating them. For them, it's like this deep internal drive. And once they've made a mental commitment to doing the thing, nothing can stand in their way. So I'm not even sure actually if I would say motivation and discipline. It's like this, they don't really factor in, because like my partner Ryan, I wouldn't consider him to be the most disciplined. He just like sets his mind to it and then he does it. And so maybe the word I would use is resolve. Once they've resolved to do something, it's just done. Like motivation and discipline are irrelevant at that point. The fifth skill of the high agency person is that of emotional regulation. High agency people don't freak out when things don't go wrong. They knock on the door, nobody answers. They try the window, nobody answers. They go to the back door, nobody answers. They don't freak out. A dog comes to the door, starts barking at them, they don't lose any sleep over it. The dog comes out and chases them through the backyard. They hop over the fence, they get out of the backyard, and then they recoup and they go, okay, now what? And then they go to the store, they get some meat, they put some sedatives into it, they throw the meat over the fence, they knock the dog out, they jump in, they give him a little pet to make sure he's okay, and then they go back to trying to figure out how to get into the house. They don't lose sleep over the things that don't go right. They always remain poised and calm, and because they know at the end of the day, like their primary advantage in this life as a high agency person is their ability to solve problems. And you cannot solve problems when you're in that tunnel vision, world constricted type of mindset that occurs when you're emotionally dysregulated. So those are 5 skills. Well, let's say 5 sub skills of the high agency person, which is the one skill being high agency that you need if you want to be rich. So go forth and crush. I'll see you guys in the next video.